But let's move away from the stock market and go to the fixed income market at this time and see what's happening there with Akpewe Oputu. She's the chief dealer at Lotus Bank. Hi, Akpewe. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having us on the program.
Great. So, is the profit taking in the stock market, is it translating to, bargain hunting, if we call that, in the fixed income space?
Okay, so for this week, the fixed income market has been relatively active. We had a bond auction earlier in the week on Monday, and the yields were trading relatively high at above 19% levels, which are actually very attractive for foreign investors. We also had an OMO auction conducted by the CPN this week. The closing rate was around 22%, above 22%, which actually very good interest rates for the market. So investors are actually being seen playing on the fixed income space. The total purchase between the bond and the fixed income is over 1.2 trillion. So we can see the investors actually playing out in this market actively. The yields are very good. It's very good returns for investors. So the market has been really active on this front.
But I mean, apart from the home, I think on the treasury bills and all, we see like a 19% yield. And I remember the last conversation I had, the hope by investors that perhaps there'll be a little bit more when it comes to yields.
So yes, so we actually have the OMO auction and then we have the NTB auction. So the OMO auction usually is played out for the foreign investors. It's a way to attract them into the market, and we see the CBN giving higher yields at this OMO auction, above 22%, which is about 24% if you look at the all-in, the yield, the return for investors, and it's really attractive. Very few businesses you can invest in and go to bed that are secured, and you get up to 25% return on those funds. So it is actually very attractive for the foreign investors.
But who's dominating now? Is it domestic or foreign investors now, generally in the fixed income space?
So for banks, at 19% levels in the NTB auction space, it's quite good for local investors as well. So if you have idle funds and you're looking for a safe place to keep your money at the moment, you can actually do those levels. So 19%, 19.9 bonds, they're above 21% levels. So we also see that as very attractive yields in the market. And that's actually even causing stability also in the FX market, because whatever happened in the fixed income place, market tend to play out in the FX. So when you don't see people looking for safe havens on FX, they're actually investing in fixed income securities. There's been a lot of stability in the FX market. We've seen the CBN come into the market during the course of the week. That's why what is happening in the US market, they try to intervene and create stability in the market, so we don't see rates devalue week on week. So we've been very stable in that front.
Yeah, so because we saw the Naira, I know when the tariff war really got on, we saw the Naira drop to 1,006. But we've seen it recover slightly though, but to under 1,006. So can we attribute it to activities in the fixed income space?
Okay, so like you mentioned, whatever happens in the US market somewhat affects our trading in our local market, because you see flight for safety when there are uncertainties on where the tariff between the US China tariff is going to end. We see a lot of foreign investors come into the market to pull out those funds, and when you see a lot of buying, that means the rates goes as high as 1605 or above the 1600 levels. But because of the calmness now that we've seen in the US markets, the indecisions, the market has been relatively stable. The central bank has consistently come into the market to see that they maintain that stability. So day on day, you don't see a devaluation of the currency. And we've seen them come into the market last week. This week, they've sold over $82 million, which is quite a lot to calm the market. And this has actually brought respite to the market. We've seen stability, and the FX has been around 1.6, which is relatively stable for investors who are looking to buy funds.
Yeah, so while there's stability in the market, our reserves, be feeling the negative impact.
So if you look at it week on week, we were at $37.8 billion in our reserve. We still hovered around 37.4. So when you see those OMO auctions being conducted, it's because the CBN has probably gotten some funds for FPIs. So that's what translates into those OMO auctions that you see. And so it's part of those foreign investors we see come into the market, the funds that have been inflowed that are actually used to stabilize the FX market as well.
And we're seeing the calendar for the second quarter. We saw that the government intends to borrow more. I've been kind of curious, borrow less, I beg your pardon. I've been kind of curious, where else will they be going to apart from the domestic market? Obviously, the dollar is threatening now. It doesn't look like a good place to go to.
This administration is one that we should commend. They've actually looked inwards to see how they can raise internally generated revenue. And when the country is able to do that, it means less borrowing in this part of the country. So if the state governments, the federal government, everybody looks inward to see how they can raise inwards revenue for the country, then it means you would actually reduce the pressure on the federal government, and then you see less issuance. But as time goes on, we'll look at it quarter for quarter to see how the government has fared out in terms of their borrowings, to see the amount, the volume by which they came down, and how, if you compare it to the internally generated revenue of the country, you see whether they're actually making good waves on that.
All right, we'll certainly do that assessment maybe at the end of the second quarter. Thank you so much, Akpere Oputu, Chief Dealer at Lotus Bank.
Thank you.